Welcome to episode 24 of the Talking Fires podcast. I'm your host, Ben Fadden. I'm here with a very special guest, Chris Ello, the host of Gwynn and Chris on 97.3 The Fan with Tony Gwynn Jr. and Matt Scraby. Chris, thanks for taking your time. Absolutely. So to start off here, you've had the Gwynn and Chris show now on 97.3 The Fan for a few years. I'm curious, how much are you enjoying working with Tony and Scraby right now?
Well, I love working with Tony Scraby. Just kidding. We're having a great time. We're lucky to do what we do, and I think we all have a great time. Tony's really been spectacular. He's took off the old blocks just like his dad, and I played ball with his dad. And it's just like having his dad around. So it's been really special with him. Scraby does an unbelievable job. She works his butt off to make sure the show is as good as it can be. So really in a lucky position.
Yeah, and you mentioned your playing career a little bit there. I'm sure that there's a lot of listeners that don't know that. So could you just briefly kind of just go over how you played? So just kind of go over that a little bit, because I think that's important to know when you're criticizing players and stuff. You were in their position, not in the big leagues, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I briefly is the key word. I played briefly. No, I mean, I went to high school and just got recruited in San Diego State. So, pitcher there for years. And actually, I think my 2 years were Tony's last 2 years. And, so after a couple of years, it didn't really look like I was going to be like that. So I kind of got out of it, started going into journalism and other stuff. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I mean, getting into college was exciting. And but I still don't think it gives me the right to criticize Major League ball players. I try not to be. I try to be respectfully honest as best I can, and give them a little kick in the butt every once in a while. But I don't think Major League players are listening to things I'm saying. They're all pretty amazing, and I'm pretty impressed with what they can do.
Just broadly, what are your biggest takeaways from the Padres season thus far?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, number one, I think this is a really good team. But number two, I think I'm disappointed that we haven't the kind of record I think they're capable of achieving. Obviously had a major problem getting them really thinking about pitching in the National League. The Bowers, Buellers, the Dodgers, and the Mets, Roman, and DeGrom. And I just think that it's all very good pitchers. A lot of people have trouble hitting them. That's true, but the Padres, want to get where they want to go. They got to beat some of these guys. I'm not saying they need to beat them every time out, but I think they need to post some because these are the exact guys that are going to face in the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, and I think if is a fair word. I think most people just assume they're going to go for the playoffs this year. And that's not a given. I mean, San Francisco is right there. The Dodgers, Milwaukee, Chicago, in the Central. In the East, you got the Mets. That's 5 teams right there that are ahead. Atlanta's still to be heard from. St. Louis may be heard from. Philadelphia. So you still got a lot of work to do just to get into the playoffs. If you get to the playoffs, you're going to be facing top of the line pitching every you have to beat them all the time, but you got to beat them once in a while. Until the Padres can do that, I think there's some question
Now the Padres were playing the Mets over the weekend. You talk about, not hitting the premier pitching, and that's who they faced the first two games with DeGrom and Stroman. What were your expectations prior to the series, and were you encouraged at all about what you saw maybe on Sunday in the seventh inning? Just talk about what you saw this past weekend.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely encouraged by the in that series. That's going to be a big downer. So I think a little desperation and with the big blast by Fernando kind of saved the in there. But yeah, going into the series, I was expecting, let's win one of these games. Let's split when we play Milwaukee. We got to face Woodruff and Burns. Let's at least get a split out of facing. I mean, these are the kinds of things I'm expecting. I mean, the Padres, want to be one of the best teams in baseball, then you got to beat the best pitchers in baseball. And like I said, you're going to have to beat them all, but you got to beat some of them. So I was a little disappointed in this series. Desperate comeback on Sunday. And now they go to Colorado, and on paper, Colorado's a gimme, but Colorado's not a gimme in their home park. They had a pretty good pitcher going in the first game. Austin executed as well as any Rockies pitcher ever has. Rookie in his tenure at Coors Field. So, Padres, it's kind of interesting. I think the Padres opponents, the pitchers, and who they're playing. And I see a lot of people tweeting out, well, the Padres the Giants and the Padres the Dodgers. It's all well and good. But the bottom line is the Padres need to play better. They need to do better. They feel better. Their championship teams don't sit at the bottom of the fielding rankings in the National. That's not where championship teams are. You don't have to have the best fielding in the league, but you can't just make as many mistakes as the Padres make. So this is still a team that, as good as I think they are, I don't think they play how good I think they be.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you mentioned not playing as good as you thought, not pitching as well as probably we thought, as Blake Snell had his best start of the year last Friday against the Mets. And then, this past Friday, he was good through 3 innings, and then he kind of lost his command in the fourth and the fifth. Mental error, with the balk, and which was big because then DeGrom with a single scores 2 runs, not 1. What are you seeing out of Snell? Do you see any progress, maybe with his fastball? He was a little inconsistent that his last start out.
Fantastic to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's funny. I think his attitude is hilarious. I think his it is really likable. But I expect Blake Snell to go set runs most times out, and I believe he's done that one time this year. So I have been disappointed with him. I haven't seen a whole lot. I saw a good effort against the Mets, but I see an ERA over 9 on the road. That's not bad for a pitcher of his caliber. He's got an ERA over 9 on the road. That's not championship level pitching. So I haven't been impressed with Blake Snell, and we'll see until he can put one start. It's not going to change my Blake Snell, especially at home against middle division team.
and like a minor league lineup because no Conforto,
Yeah,
no
right.
McNeil.
That's where
Yeah.
completely wiped out of their starters. So this is like 4 or 5 games in a row where the 6 innings allows 2 runs, 7 innings, 2 runs, 3 innings, and telling me, Case Tingler telling me afterwards, well, they had great command. So what? You're starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. 3 innings is not your job. It's not 3 innings. Your job is 6 innings at least. And that's down from where it used to be. Your job used to be 8 or 9 innings. Now your job's only 6 innings. But don't tell me that you pitched well for 3 innings and you felt good about that. That's ludicrous. That's not winning baseball, championship baseball. And it's the baseball that can be played by a team that's going to finish around 500, but it's not the kind of pitching you're going to need to beat out the Dodgers. So, those are the things. Like I said, I think this Padre team has the capabilities so much better than it is. And, Blake Snell's certainly one of the reasons why it hasn't achieved what it should.
And now Chris Paddock, he's another starter that has had trouble at the beginning of the year. I've seen a lot of progress from him since he came off the IL, being aggressive, using that fastball up in the zone like he did in 2019. Did you believe that Chris, would bounce back? Because it wasn't looking good in 2020 at the end there. Tingler didn't even go to him in the NLDS, but it wasn't looking good. But now it seems like it's starting to turn around.
Yeah, he's starting a little confidence, enthusiasm, a little belief in himself. I think we did see some of that yesterday in the game, Sunday, where, he pitched through that 6th inning and he kind of set up the team for the comeback. So, I think we are starting to see some things with that. I'm not 100% confident in him yet, but I feel he's just going to bounce back. I think the Paddock that we saw in 2018 was probably what he really is. And we saw in 2020 was a lot worse than he really is. So I think he's going to find his level there somewhere in the middle. Hopefully that makes it the 2019 version when it's all said and done. But I don't have the same confidence in Paddock as regardless. But I have some, and that's starting, pick up the innings a little bit, and start going 6 or 7. This team is, for as good as they are, or as good as they can, still have a lot of issues that have to get sorted out. I think now in August, because August, September is when you have to start playing your best ball. They're going to have to play at a high level just to get into the postseason because there's a lot of teams there that are going to want to make a run at it.
Now, Mark Melancon has been off to an amazing start. I think better than anyone in the Padres organization could have probably hoped. There's usually a blip or two on the radar, but he's been, very good. A great contract right now. But my main question with him is his durability. Do you think that, at his age, at, all the innings under his belt, do you think that he could pitch like this the entire year and then when it matters most, hopefully in October?
Yeah, I think he can because they've used him well. They haven't overused him. They haven't pushed him. They haven't asked him to go more than an inning, except for maybe one time. He's a veteran. He knows how to take care of himself. I don't think he'll slow down now. Is he going to pitch a perfect season? I mean, he's basically been perfect to this point. I know his kind of blown saves, both of them were in extra innings for the runners. So I don't count that. I mean, he's saved every single game he can save. Is he going to finish up with a perfect season? Probably not. He'll probably have a couple of games that'll get away, but yeah, Melancon's the least of my worries. I mean, honestly, if you give me a worry sheet of 10 things, he wouldn't be on it. So, I think some of the middle relievers, 6th, 7th inning guys, 5th, 6th, 7th inning guys, those guys Tingling goes to those guys at that time of the game an awful lot.
Eric Hosmer's been getting a lot of heat lately because he isn't producing to the level that fans want, obviously with the big contract he signed before Manny even arrived. But I think it's funny that these same people, were praising him in April when he was driving in go-ahead runs against the Dodgers, Mr. Clutch, and now they want to, kind of bag on him. It's kind of like the same thing that happened earlier with Tommy Pham. But my question to you is, what have you thought of Eric Hosmer's approach this year, and do you think maybe he should be less aggressive?
I think his approach has been good. I mean, the approach that worked for him in April is not working for him now.
Mm,
It's made it work again. It's funny that you mentioned Tommy Pham. I mean, everybody, quit on Tommy Pham. Not knowing that what's that? Fans are short for Fernando. This is what fans do. React is, go into a slump and they give up on them. And those aren't good fans in my mind. The people that got to the point where they wanted to cut Tommy Pham, it seemed almost as if they were rooting for him to fail. It just makes no sense to me. I mean, this is your team. Tommy Pham, he has been a really excellent player at the major league level more than once. So you should have been rooting for Tommy Pham to get it back together. And, fortunately, he has got it back together. And now it's Hosmer's turn, and he's so, you're rooting against him. I mean, people are pretty funny.
yeah.
I really are. But I think the approach that Hosmer took was working for him. Maybe they've made some adjustments pitching games. He should be smart enough to make some adjustments and work around it. But I didn't expect Hosmer to hit any higher than 250, 260. But he's still pretty good in the clutch. And I think the one thing with Hosmer is I'd like to see him move back down in the lineup a little bit, at least until it starts to come up. Batting right in the cleanup spot, this offense to a certain extent, because he's been struggling so much. So I think you need to move him down to 6 or 7 and figure it out again. But the notion that you're going to give up on a guy that's been an all-star type performer in the series, and showed how that's just silly. That's just silly to give up on guys so soon, just because they perform.
Yeah, you mentioned maybe a lineup change. I was saying that about, I think it was Saturday's lineup when Grisham came back, Cronenworth was hitting 7th and Hosmer was hitting 5th. And I thought if you just switch those, they're both lefties, put Cronenworth 5th. I think you'd have at least better results right now, in terms of where, just considering where both guys are, offensive wise. I think you'd have more runs maybe driven in and more action on the bases, at least in the short term. What are your thoughts on, Grisham hitting 2nd behind Pham when he returned, and maybe where the rest of the lineup sits?
Yeah, I think if it's right-handed pitching, I'll have to go Grisham off. And my catch rate. I think that's the way it should be right now. I know that I I think, other than pitch hitting and starters, I think Profar should be a regular part of this lineup once everybody's healthy. So, they ask me what I would do in the lineup. Grisham at the top, I'd have Machado, Tatis and Cronenworth in the middle. I'd have, it's still pretty lengthy lineup. You have Myers and Hosmer at 6 and 7. That's pretty good. But guys still have to do it. They have to get the job done, no matter where they're batting in the lineup. The lineup is fun to talk about for fans. But bottom got to hit the ball hard. You got to get on the base, knock some balls in the gas. Drive some runs, got to start some athletes, whatever it is. I mean, offensively, this team needs to take off, and I don't think they are relying as much on the home run as they did in the past. Some people think that's good. I don't know how good that is. I mean, it's not exactly great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like to see them a little closer to the top 10 in home runs. And, they're frankly, I think they have 68 home runs right now. Heading into Monday, Toronto has 99. I'm not saying that's the end all, but I'm surprised there's a team in baseball that has 30 home runs.
Yeah. Moving to Tatis, he's continued to amaze, but I think one of the big questions obviously is his health. That home run derby is a big conversation. I'm someone that, obviously you want to see a good show, but I think you can see a good show with Acuna and Vlad Jr. going at it, not and having Tatis not in it. But what are your thoughts on him if he can stay healthy the rest of the year? Do you think that, he can? And what are your thoughts on him, maybe being in the home run derby?
Risk it.
Yeah.
Be fun. I don't care. Would you rather win in the playoffs or have Tatis win the home run derby?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. 2 years ago when they had it, my point is nobody remembers that. So my main thing is how Tatis healthy in the postseason. I think he can stay healthy the rest of the season. No, he'll probably get hurt somewhere along the line. He just plays too hard. But hopefully, it's a small thing, whatever it might be. Yeah, he'll miss some more games. He's missed 19, 20 games already this season. I don't think he's going to play every single game the rest of the way. But, this guy, he's got a chance to lead the league in home runs and stolen bases. Right? There's not very many guys who can even think about doing something like that. He's actually in pretty good position to try and do it. So, might even be able to lead all Major League Baseball, if he stays completely healthy.
Yeah.
He's a special guy, but I'm not worried. The thing is he pulled out a game yesterday, but he can't do it alone. And the rest of these guys are going to have to start, stepping up on a lot more consistent basis for this lineup to succeed.
Mm-hmm. This is a question now from my co-host Jacob Zimmerman. Couldn't be here today. Where do you see the Padres ending up this year?
Well, I don't know, 95.
Okay.
I think I felt like more than that when it started, but
yeah,
with all the issues they've had, all the injuries, all kinds of pitching issues, I don't anymore. But I think playoffs likely as a wild card. Take the chances.
Hope you don't see the Mets. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I think you see them in baseball. And they can get hot. They can make a run. But you got to get in there first. There's a lot of
Yeah. Now, some of that work comes this week against Colorado. What do you see? Colorado's obviously a rebuilding team. Don't understand what really direction they're going in, especially trading, Nolan Arenado for pretty much nothing. What's your prediction this week with that series, and how much are you looking forward to a full building this week against Cincinnati?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to more life back to normal. That's great for everybody. So, chance to have a full building.
Mhm.
you know, do some damage against the Red Sox. Teams, you're playing at Coors Field, and then you're home with Cincinnati. You got basically got 7 games. I'm not going to predict 7 games. I need to give up 40 runs. They offensively, they got to break out of this, and not facing any DeGroms, and not facing any Strowmans, and not facing anybody's, superstar tier 1 pitchers. Colorado doesn't have any. I don't think Cincinnati really has any. So, no more excuses. My prediction is 7 games. They do that, they ought to win, 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah. Last thing here, for those who don't listen to the Gwynn and Chris show, Chris has this segment called Chris versus the Fans, where it's basically a trivia contest. So I figured let's do a mini version of that. I obviously don't have a producer, so it's not like me versus Chris, but I'll just ask Chris a couple questions and see if he can get them. Are we good to go here? Let's see. So this is 2021 Padres trivia questions. Just 2 quick ones. Jake Cronenworth hit the first inside the park homer at Petco by a Padre since Tony Gwynn Jr. Can you name the pitcher that Jake hit the inside the park home run off of?
This year?
Yes. It was against Colorado. I'll give you a hint.
It was Colorado.
Yep.
Was it Chichi Gonzalez?
Exactly. Correct. Yes. Wow. That was May 19th against the Rockies at home. Obviously, that ball into the right field corner a little bit there off the wall. Very good. It's the last one. Joe Musgrove threw the first no-hitter in Padres history on April 9th. Can you name 2 of the last 3 batters Musgrove faced in that 9th inning? No. Grounder to shortstop. All right. So the answer, David Dahl was a line out to Jake Cronenworth. Leody Taveras was the ground out to Musgrove, the little tapper. And then Isaiah Kiner Falefa was the ground out to Ha-Sung Kim. All right. Sounds good. All right. That's all I got, Chris. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right.